Welcome to Stories We Weren't Supposed to Tell. This is a survivor led space where we speak honestly about abuse, healing, and what it really takes to rebuild your life. This is not a substitute for therapy, and we are not giving medical advice. Please take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and take care of yourself while listening. Today's episode contains discussions of domestic violence, addiction, coercive control, suicidal intentions, and trauma recovery. We will not be sharing graphic details, but we will be speaking truthfully about survival. Please listen at your own pace. Today we're sharing Teresa's story. This is what happens when abuse escalates slowly, when love, survival, addiction, and control get tangled together, and when a woman knows in her gut something is wrong long before she has the words to explain it. Teresa talks about what it looked like to live in fear, to lose herself in chaos, to keep going back, and to finally reach the moment where she knew if she stayed, she might not survive. But this episode is also about what came after, what it looks like to fight your way back from trauma, to rebuild your mind, to reclaim your life, and to become the person who takes control of her mental health instead of letting it take control of her. This is Teresa's story, and I'm going to let her tell it. Okay, so before we go into anything heavy, you want to kind of tell us about who you are today?
Well, so today I am a mom of one. Um, he's 19, 3-year-old grandson. I have 4 bonus kids that I have been raising for be 6 years in July. Um, and when I say raising, like their mom actually passed away 3 years before I met their dad. So the ages we have at home right now are 25 to 15. The 25-year-old is Down syndrome nonverbal. Um, and then right now, like I'm a stay-at-home mom. Right now, it's a lot different.
A lot different.
A lot different than it was almost 11 years ago.
Wow.
Was when I left. So, um, I don't know. Like I guess just like right now, just life just seems a lot simpler. I mean, yeah, there's still struggles and there's still like all of everything, but as the years from the trauma, like, keep, like, every year, it just seems like it's getting easier and easier. I mean, I still deal with, like, all of the symptoms, PTSD, all of that, but I don't let it take over anymore.
Mhm.
I used to just let my mental health take over. Now I take over my mental health,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So I've done all of the from state hospital to all of, like, hospital visits to I don't know how many times. Like, I would say over 10 times I was in the hospital after the fact just because I let the trauma take over.
Mhm.
Now I take over and like, putting one foot forward.
Mhm.
So,
Okay. We'll dig more into that in a
yeah.
little bit for sure. If you had to describe what you went through in one sentence, what would you say?
I would probably say it was the worst 5 years of my life. It was hell.
Okay. And when people look at your life from outside, what do you think they miss?
Um, I A lot of people still look at who I was 11 years ago and don't see what I have overcame. Some people still see that person that was using drugs, you know, letting this man do what he did to me and not leaving.
Mhm.
And family is the worst.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they are very judgmental and it's almost like they can't get over the fact of who you used to be and look at who you are or who you are becoming.
Okay, so jumping into the story, you started working. for him when you started working for him? What was the dynamic?
So in 2010, he was a general manager at a fast food restaurant. I had gotten hired and I moved up really quick. I went from crew member to shift manager to a general manager at another store within not even a year's time span.
And did he have authority during
Yes,
that time?
he did.
Okay.
Yes, he was the one that was like, "Oh, she'll do it. She'll do a good job. Let's move her forward." And I ended up in Tremonton. So I was in Ogden and I ended up having to go to Tremonton. And at that time I was a single mom. My son would have been 4 or 5-ish, maybe a little bit younger. Actually, he was probably a little bit younger when I became the general manager. And then me and him moved out to Tremonton.
And what about him like really drew you in? What's like the first thing that drew you to him?
His willingness to like get me where I wanted to be in the company.
Mhm.
And I felt that I was special
Yeah.
because he was just like so focused on helping.
You were saying being recognized
Hmm.
by authority.
Correct. And when I had moved to the store in Tremonton, he was the one that I could call and be like, "Hey, da 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 da, da, how do I do this?"
Yeah.
Or "How do I do this?" And he was there. He would come up to the store and help me, and it was just like I felt like appreciative of it
Mhm.
because of where I kind of was in my life anyways. I was a little bit heavier, stuff like that, and single mom,
Mhm.
and I was getting attention.
Yes.
So I took it.
Yeah, it's somebody who, when it shifted into dating, did it feel natural or pressured?
So when we first started dating, it was really we kind of hung out as friends and stuff and we did things and then he asked me on a date and then I remember we went on a date, it was good, and he started coming to my house and help because I was like, "Oh, I have some things at my home that I need help with," and we started building more of like a friendship because I was at a different store.
Mhm.
And then I remember it was like his birthday and I bought tickets to the Zac Brown concert. I remember going and then that night was like the first night, you know, things happened. And from then on, it was a relationship. So
Okay. And what did you like about him in the beginning?
he took my son in and treated him because he didn't have any kids. Just the way he interacted with my kid. Because even, like, just working at when I was working at his store, I remember he would go to yard sales and he would be like, "Oh, look, I got this for your son. I got this for your son." And so, he was doing things for my son as well because at that time, my son's dad was kind of in and out. Um, and so just it was somebody doing something for my son, and so I was like, "Oh, okay, cool,"
Mhm.
So
It's how they get you.
it
Yeah.
is.
Looking back now, were there red flags then?
Yes. Because when I was at the store, um, like, he when I worked with him at his store, he was very flirty, and he did have a girlfriend at the time, and I would hear things that he did things to her, and I just believed it but didn't.
Mhm.
And then, there was other girls there that, they would, like, bend down and, like, their underwear would show or whatever, and you would see him kinda, out of the office and stuff like that, um, even when he had a girlfriend. So I should have caught on to that. And then when we were just barely dating, he had a court date, and it was for a domestic against this girl. And of course, I didn't do that. Da, 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 da. And then his mom also backed him up and said that that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so me being me, blindsided, just like, oh, okay, it didn't happen, because he really didn't get punished in court for it either.
Yeah.
Like he got a fine and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I should have seen it, but at that time I didn't because I was like, oh, I got a new boyfriend, da, da, da,
Yeah.
he's taking care of me. Yeah.
Yeah. So what did he do to have you trust him more than yourself?
So I, even to this day, like, once I get that attention, it just feels good because I had abuse growing up as well. From my dad being an alcoholic to um his first wife abusing me. And so it's just like once somebody says they love me, I'm like all in. Like I don't even care. I don't care about myself. I mean, I care about myself, but I care about more of what they think. And I just at that time just kind of went along with everything
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of was like, he did something, so I did it. He started drinking, so I did. It's just that's what I did because of I believe because of the love I didn't get as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Because I still do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been with my fiance now for going on 6 years, and I still have those issues where someone says they love me, and I'm just like, all in. We have to move in together. We have to do that. That, that. And you don't have to.
Yeah.
You can take things slow. It's okay. But it's taken a long time to realize that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
At what point did things start to feel unhealthy?
so it would have been probably so he lived in Roy and I lived in Tremont. And so after about, I would say 6 months of us dating, I ended up moving in with him and Roy. And I wanted to change jobs because Roy to Tremont it was hell.
Yeah.
That
Sure.
drive
Yeah.
every day, five days a week, because when you're a general manager for this fast food company, it was 50 hours a week.
Yeah.
And you usually ended up working 55, 60. And so just doing the drive an hour and a half and then having to work 10, 12 hours. And he like made me stay.
Mm.
Like, I was like, I want to find something else. I want to try and it was, no, you got to do this. I got you here. You need to do this,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so I kept doing it for a while. And then we moved from Roy to Sunset. And then that's when it all happened. So,
You mentioned heavy drinking. How
Mhm.
did that affect his behavior?
so when I was actually, because I had to go through police reports
Uh-huh.
to actually um, try and remember some things because of the trauma. I don't remember like time frames very well, um, years, like stuff like that. So, um, like I think drinking it made him angry, and then it making him angry made me also an angry person when I was drinking. And so that's when the fights would get bad because he would get mad at something. So then I would get mad, and then it would start with the yelling, and then it escalated. Um, but drinking for sure was a nightly thing. Um, if it wasn't him going to the liquor store, it was me going to the liquor store. And so it wasn't just beer, it was hard alcohol, like, nightly.
Mhm.
And it was just an angry.
Okay, so you kind of answered that next question.
Mhm.
So, when the name calling and throwing thing started, how did you justify it to yourself?
I justified it because we were drinking.
Mhm.
I made drinking the excuse.
Mhm.
You know, there was a time, I'll probably ask this, but when he actually hit me after a party we had, and I went to the neighbors, and the neighbors made me go to the emergency room, and I was like, I can't because then they're going to ask me questions. And they did. Cops got called. I went to court and recountered what I had said happened.
Mhm.
Because when I got home, it was, it was just us drinking. I didn't mean it. I really love you. Okay. And so then I recountered what I had said in my police report.
Mhm.
And that was
Happens
the first
often.
time. Yeah.
That happens often, a lot of
Yes.
times. So,
And
uh,
when you were in it, did you feel like it was just like normal relationship conflict?
I did because that's what I saw growing up as well. So because my dad was an alcoholic, he would come home drunk. I remember him and his first wife, um, her locking him out of the house at times. And at that time, I was younger than 8, you know?
Yeah.
And I can still remember sometimes him being locked out because he was drinking or driving around to the bars to see what bar he was at with her
Mhm.
or being left home alone because she was out looking for him. And so in my mind was like, oh, so this is what alcohol really does. It makes people different.
Yeah.
so you feel like because you were brought up like that and you seen that happen, do you think you were more like willing to just let this happen? Do you think if you were brought up differently that you would have been like, no?
I think if not necessarily being brought up different, but actually having real support. I mean, my parents kind of said they were there, but if I was to call them and be like, "Hey, I'm struggling. I really need out," they would be like, "Are you sure this time? Are
Mhm.
you sure?" And it was like, so it wasn't that I couldn't even count on them.
Mhm.
And I think if I would have had a better support and not just his people,
Mhm.
it would have been different.
Did he ever apologize to you?
He always apologized. It was, if anything happened, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry, it's because I was drinking," or "I'm sorry, it's because," he justified it
Mhm.
of why he was sorry. And so then it was just like, "Okay, he loves me." Because it would be, "Oh, well, I love you. I'm really sorry." And so I think it was the "I love you" that caught me every time.
Mhm.
It wasn't the "I'm sorry," because to me, always growing up, it was like, if you say you're sorry, it's something you're not gonna do again.
Mhm.
And that's what I was always taught. And so when he would say sorry, but then it would happen again, I was like, so don't say sorry because it's just going to happen. But he learned if he said, I love you,
Mhm.
it drug me back in.
Okay.
Well, and I feel like on movies you watch, growing up when you're in these situations, they always show the abuse part in movies.
Right.
What they don't show you is the "I love you, I'm so sorry, take me back, I'm that," it's like they just show the worst part. So then when you do receive that, "I'm so sorry," you're like, "Oh, well, this is different.
Yeah.
He does love me,"
Yeah.
because you don't
And I
see it.
think it's because the sorry and I love you comes when we're sober.
Yeah.
It didn't happen in the matter of the fact.
Yeah.
It didn't happen right after. It
Mhm.
happened after we slept on it, got sober, and then it was the I'm sorry, I love you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys got married in 2014. So what made you say yes to doing that despite everything that was already happening?
Um, Because I think I felt that I was happy, in a way, even though it was kind of like my party time, but I was also raising my kid too, and so I think it was because my son ended up started calling him dad. Because like I said, his dad was kind of in and out and stuff. Um, he started calling him dad, and so I felt that I needed to do that for my son, I think, to have a
Mhm.
family.
Yeah.
Um, because that's what I wanted, and I didn't want to be I always told myself I didn't want to be like my dad, because my dad still to this day just got married for his 6th or 7th time, I don't even know,
Mhm.
you know? And I told myself I would never be like that, and so I was just like, "Oh, yes, this is it, this is it." Even though there was a struggle up to that point, it wasn't too bad. I could handle it.
Mhm.
And so I just let it happen, I just kinda went with the flow of things, so I
So
think
then
I almost think I was the one, to be honest, that was like, "Let's get married." I don't think he was just like, you know,
yeah.
I propose, it wasn't like any surprise proposal or anything. I think I might have pushed it a little bit because I wanted that family,
Mhm.
so
Okay.
So then after the "I do you feel like things changed? Did they intensify after it was solidified?
yeah. Um, I think that's when he was like, "I have control," you know? Um, because he had lost his job as well, and so, like, I was doing a lot of I was working and everything and providing and stuff, but, um, he still had the control. He had the control over he did all the financing, he did everything, and I slowly, after saying "I do," started noticing friends and family just kind of, going away
Mhm.
at that time. And it was slow, my group of people were slowly fading.
Because he was
Be
alienating them or
I think because all of my time was, "Well, if he's not here, I can't."
Mm.
People started seeing it,
Mhm.
I didn't,
Yeah.
and looking back now I do.
Mhm.
But in the moment, no. It was, it I see it saying "I do," and then it was like party, 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 and then it just went south.
Did you feel more trapped once you were married?
Not at the beginning. Not at the beginning. It was a couple months after when he went to the doctors and got put on a medication.
The
It the
phentermine that you
phentermine.
mentioned, yeah.
Um, and at that time, phentermine, doctors were given that like candy.
Mm.
Mhm.
And, at that time, I was already an ex-meth user because I used right out of high school. When I was 18, I used for a couple years on and off. And so when he got on the phentermine, I started noticing the little things.
Mhm.
And when I started calling him out on it, that's when it started getting really bad. That's when the hitting started and more of the manipulation. And that's when I was like, this is when I think his behaviors, like, really got triggered because he was also an ex-meth user, and I think it triggered the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
His but, I mean, it's not an excuse by any means, but I think that's what triggered everything because then he ended up actually starting meth again.
Mm.
So then at that point, what did day-to-day life start to feel like for you?
So, after the fact, I remember I was able to finally did move to a different company, helped open up a brand new store. So I went from a general manager to an assistant manager. And he at that time was not working. And so it was me working, him at home all day, but then I would come home and then he would be gone all night.
Mm.
And then that's when I was like, okay, what's really going on? And then I found out that he was doing meth and then he started selling meth. And it got to the point where I was like, I started trying it again because
Mm.
I was like, well, you're doing it, you're hiding it. There's there's a reason. And then it got to a point where um the beatings were happening over anything. And I ended up going to a women's shelter and quit my job because he told me, if you quit, I'll stop. We'll start over, So I ended up quitting my job and then went back to him one again.
Mhm.
Um and then it and then it just got worse.
So, I'm gonna take you back a little bit.
Yeah.
Will you explain to me what it felt like the first time he hit you? Can you walk me through that very first time?
Okay. So the first time that he hit me was we were let's see. It was after the party, right?
Mhm.
So it I don't know how to express how I felt. Um but I knew it wasn't right. I just don't remember how exactly I felt because I just like knew in my gut something was going wrong.
Mhm.
I just didn't know what.
So, did you try to justify it in your head? Did you try to take any blame yourself for it? Or were you just like fight and flight?
I think I was just fight and flight because my body, even now, just automatically goes in fight or flight. And then it's like I either can't remember or I can't do things, it's like my body just takes over
Mhm.
and it's just like I don't have a feeling.
He hit you, you ran to the neighbor's house,
Mhm.
and the neighbors had you go to the ER,
Yes.
even though you didn't want to.
Yes.
Um, can you walk me through a little bit of that night? Like, what were your injuries?
So I remember him actually like that night we were running, like I was actually running around the house from him. And he had gotten a hold of my hair and like pulled my hair and it like knocked me to the floor. So it wasn't really like he had hit me at that time, but it was enough that I remember my head hitting the floor and it caused a goose egg.
Mhm.
And I think it was just like the pulling hair is just as bad as hitting. But when I went over to the neighbors, they're like, you got to do this. Like, we've seen how angry he gets with you. You have to file a police report. You have to get away. And I was just at that time, okay, okay, okay. And then got to the hospital. And I think it was them saying, well, he could go to jail. He could. And
Yeah.
then I was like, oh. And then, I did my police report and then got home and he was like, "I'm so sorry. That will never happen. I won't touch you like, I'll never touch you like that again. But if you do this police report, it's going to be hard on both of us." And I didn't want it to be hard on both of us,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
he was still helping me raise my son.
Yeah.
And that was like the most important thing was my son, even though it wasn't, I look back and it wasn't the healthiest, my son was still being raised.
Yeah.
So
So you feel like the words from the medical staff swayed your decision on changing the story?
yes, because I didn't want him to get in trouble. I was scared of more of him getting in trouble, I think, than what I would get back. And so, because I didn't back then think, well, do you get him in trouble? Is it going to, I didn't wasn't able to think rationally because I was still in it.
Mhm.
You would be amazed on, like, how many interviews I've done and how everybody wants to protect the person. They're like, "Oh, they can't go to jail. They can't have all these
Mhm.
consequences." And, you love them, so you put them before you,
Mhm.
especially in the beginning, because 'cause you're like, "Oh, this is just gonna be a one-time thing,"
Right.
and then it's not. It spirals
Exactly.
out of control because once they get rid or get away with it one time, they know they can get away with it.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where he was at because I was not the first, I was not the second. I was, like, the 3rd or 4th that
Mhm.
this had happened to,
Mhm.
so he already knew.
Mhm,
Me, I was just blinded by love,
mhm.
you know, by the word love.
How did you find out he was using meth instead of just the phentermine?
Um, I wanna say I found it
Okay.
because I was like, "You're being really, really secretive, and you're staying out, like, what is going on?" And I think I got to the point where I started, like, searching through things, and I found it, and then he was like, "Yeah," and then he also blamed the phentermine,
Mhm.
he's like, "It struck a chord, and I started using."
Mhm.
So you mentioned that he forced you to use meth. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so towards the end of our relationship, so probably, like, the last 4 months of our relationship, so that would have been in 2015, um, he actually was dealing out of our house at that time. Um, there were people in and out all the time. Um, I mean, he got really good at hiding where he was hitting me and abusing me, but there were also times that it was loud enough that everybody in the house could hear, but nobody dared say or do anything.
Mhm.
I remember them just saying, "Oh, you need to calm down. You don't need," but that it didn't stop him. And he actually ended up being an IV user, and that's when he was forcing. I was freely like smoking meth, snorting the meth because I was like, this actually is a lot better than the aftermath. If I don't do it, I know what the beating's gonna be.
Mhm.
But the last 4 months actually turned into him holding me down and injecting me. So, like, and it was for sex because when you're an IV meth user, it intensifies your,
Mhm.
wanting to have sex, and it got I would fight it because I was super scared of needles. Um, and that was one thing I always told myself, I will never be an IV user, but it got to the point where I was like, "You know what? Just do it." I'm not gonna fight you on it because if I do, I'm either gonna get beat or something else is gonna happen.
Mhm.
And so I just, for about 4 months, let it happen. Just let him.
So was that kind of the form of control is if you didn't, do what he wanted, basically he was gonna beat you, so
Yes.
you just was submissive to whatever he asked.
Yeah. And the last 4 months was when I was, like, trying to run. I don't know how many times I left.
Mhm.
Probably the last 6 months, I don't know how many times I left or tried to leave because I knew it was getting bad.
And would he just come find you?
Oh, he found me. I don't know how because I didn't have a phone. Um, I but he told me I had like, he would, like, literally get on the phone and be like, "No, look, you were right here. You were here." And
Got
not
a tracker on you maybe?
So I'm thinking somewhere he did because he is very manipulative, because I could go hide in other people's cars, he would find me. I'd go to the park, he would find me. Um, our basement, he would find me. Like, I would hide in closets and he would find me in our house. And It was because I would hide because once I knew he was gonna leave or be asleep or something, I was ready, but then he would find me. And then it would just start that cycle all over again, whether I was getting beat or whether it was, the manipulation or whatever. And so at that time, I had also given my son to his dad
Mm.
because I was trying to see how am I going to get two of us out of here?
Mhm.
It's going to be easier to get me.
Mhm.
So at that time was when I also gave my son to his dad.
Yeah.
Was there ever any aggression towards your son?
No, my son, luckily, like he was complete opposite with him,
Mhm.
you know? And when I took him to his dad's, he was actually really upset with me.
Mhm.
And I was just like, our relationship right now isn't good for him.
Mhm.
And I just kind of left it simple.
Mhm.
He needs to be somewhere that he's being taken care of. Like,
Yeah.
because I use the drugs as that
Yeah.
I don't want my son around the drugs,
Yep.
because I started finding out that our house was being watched and stuff, because the cops knew us.
Yeah.
There's many, many police reports
Yeah.
and stuff, and they knew us. And when I started finding out stuff like that, that's when I was like, okay, this is going to be a one man. I'm going to have to just run one day. I didn't know when, but I knew it was coming.
Mhm. You did mention that you were sleeping outside in closets and cars. What was that like physically and mentally to you?
Um, it was exhausting. Um, it it was weird because I was even like trying to think of it last night and stuff. Um, it's almost like I was just living in chaos and accepting it.
Mhm.
You were just in survival mode,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. And so I was just doing whatever I could to survive, no matter where I was sleeping or doing or whatever. It
Mhm.
was just, I was just doing.
Did it ever cross your mind that you might not survive it?
Yes, because there was a time that he actually came after me with a knife. So he had slapped me across the face one night, and this was in the last couple months too. And I mean, I had his aunt and uncle were at the house at that time.
Mhm.
And they saw it happen. I mean, it was a full hand-on face, like, it wasn't a punch, it was a slap across the face.
Mhm.
And I remember running over to the gas station, and the cops were there, and I tried to ignore them and go into the bathroom. Yeah, they didn't let me. They knew something
Like,
was
"No."
wrong. And I even have, like, pictures and stuff from that night. Um, of all of the bruises and everything. So from that night that actually was, like, probably what did it say? Like, June of 2015,
Mhm.
and I was covered in bruises. And
Okay.
yeah. So my arms, my legs, so anywhere that clothes could hide was where the bruises were. And then, so from that time on is when I knew our house was really being watched
Mhm.
Mhm.
because they knew I was gonna go back.
Mhm.
Mhm.
'Cause they asked me that night, "Are you done?" And in the report, it says, "I don't know." It has me saying, "I don't know" to the cop.
Mhm.
And so I think they kinda knew I wasn't done, but he was arrested that night, um, because of him threatening with a knife and everything. And they actually when they did a attempt to locate
Mhm.
that night, and they did find him and the knife, and so he did go to jail, um, but it was only for the night. And I did go somewhere and he found where I was, and of course, I went back. So
So I'm gonna tell you a story about me really quick about this. So, um, I was with my daughter's dad. Um, my 10-year-old, the one that you seen.
Mhm.
He had he strangled me, and I woke up. I was like 6 months pregnant with her. He had strangled me, and I woke up to him dragging me across the floor. He had thought that he had killed me, right? He was
Mhm.
dragging me across the floor. I got up, I ran out, I called the cops. The cops took me to jail because he had scratches on his neck, whatever. But as the cop was taking me, he said, "You're just gonna go bail him out." And that was like the realest words like I've ever heard. He
Mhm.
goes, "Sometimes we'll just take the women just because of this, because we know your life's in danger and there's nothing we can do about it because you're just gonna go get him."
Wow.
And I was just sitting there going, "No, you're
Called out by the cop
you're
taking me back.
probably right.
And
You're
the thing
probably
is,
right."
so that night or that day, the next day, he got bailed out, his druggy friends all over at my house. "We gotta bail him out. We gotta bail him out. We gotta bail him out." We bailed him out. Someone went and got him because, I didn't have a phone. He couldn't access me.
Mhm,
Mhm.
And so he was calling his buddies, "You need to go to my house. You need to make sure she's okay. You need to make sure she's at my house."
mhm.
Um, and a couple days later, I remember fighting and we had a back door and he put my head through the glass.
Oh my gosh.
So I went through the glass window and back through, and I just remember gush of blood down my face.
Yeah.
And he left. And I'm like, "Are you gonna get me a towel? Like, I am like bleeding." And he went, he got me a towel. He called his uncle to come and take me to the emergency room. And then I go, I'm in long sleeves, everything. They see some bruising on my hand, but they're like, "So what happened?" "Oh, I was up getting stuff out of the top cupboard and the skillet came down on me."
Mhm.
Yeah, they're not dumb.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, they believed me in quotations, but they didn't. Um, they came, they asked me tons of questions. We couldn't get a hold of him to come and get me. And so I walked over to like so I was at Davis Hospital and I walked over to the workforce services
Mhm.
and they gave me a bus token. So I rode a bus home after getting stitches in my head and he was just sleeping. And I'm just like, okay, you know? And I think that was one of the last times I was like, "Okay, I got to get out of here." And I know I let it happen a couple more times. And during that, I was actually trying to commit suicide. And he took pictures and videos of me hanging myself in the closet and him laughing at me,
Oh my lord.
saying, "Just do it then. Just do it. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to care."
Oh.
And he actually had videos of me trying to commit suicide. Um, and then it got to the point where he found me one last time where I was hiding in the house and there was somebody over and they watched him beat me. And I'm like, "Are you not gonna help me?" And they just shut my bedroom door. So as soon as he was done, he went into the bedroom and that's when I took off. And that was the last time. And that was October 28th of 2015.
So what do you feel on that day was that pivotal moment for you? What was the realization that got you out?
How could your friends sit here and watch somebody do this to somebody else and not do anything about it?
Yeah.
And I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna die if I stay here."
Mhm.
I mean, he kicked me really, really good, and I just remember, the breath being taken from me, and at that moment, I knew, if
Mhm.
I don't leave now, he's gonna kill me
Yeah.
if I don't kill myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
One thing not only to get everybody's stories out of their abuse, but absolutely want to hear about how they became themselves again and what they went through to do that. So, want to tell me what happened after you left?
So after I left, I was actually in the hospital for a week, like recovering, coming off the meth.
Mhm.
Like I slept for a week in the hospital.
Mm.
And it was on the mental health floor because when I left, the initial call was, or I went to the same gas station and I said, if you don't call the cops, like I'm ready to kill myself. Like I'm done.
Mm.
I said somebody needs to come. And then that's when the clerk called and then I was able to get to the hospital and everything. Um so I stayed a week in the hospital and then I went to Davis Behavioral Health.
Mhm.
I did a couple years of like inpatient therapy and then ended up moving in with my grandma. Um, and she was in Weber County. So it would have been about probably 2017, 2018. I started with Weber Human Services and very extensive therapy. Um, I mean, I was in therapy a couple days a week. I was doing DBT classes. I was doing everything I needed. I didn't have my son back yet, but I was seeing my son and getting that relationship back. Um and then from like 2018 to about 2020, I I didn't know how to handle my mental health at all. Like, I didn't know what was going on. Like, I knew I was feeling better physically, but I didn't know what was going on mentally. Um,
Do you think it's just part of your nervous system being on edge for so long, trying to calm down
oh,
your nervous system?
I think so. And like, I mean, I tried so many medications and everything. I did get diagnosed with PTSD,
Mhm.
borderline personality disorder,
I was actually going to ask you if you
schiz-
had borderline personality disorder.
schizoaffective disorder,
Mhm.
depression and anxiety, and then there was like one or two others. And this all happened after the trauma. Cause like I saw therapists and stuff here and there and was on medication as a teenager for depression and stuff like that. But like getting those diagnoses after the trauma, I let that like control me. I was like,
Mm.
I'm PTSD, I'm borderline, I'm. And so up until about 2020, I went to the state hospital for 9 months
Mhm.
and did their trauma therapy. And like, it's like right in your face trauma therapy. Like it's in, all the way out there, that
Mm.
Draper area
Mhm.
or Provo is where the state hospital is. And they drove me all the way out to Sunset and would make me sit in front of that house that I got abused in and had to feel all of those emotions and process and talk about it. And that was probably the most healing
Mhm.
was because it wasn't family, it wasn't friends, it was actually a person sitting there going through what you went through
Mhm.
but you're processing it at the same time. Even though
Mhm.
at that time I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but it I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can think again." Like
Mhm.
once the trauma therapy actually started working, it's like my mind cleared.
Yeah.
And um so I was lucky and only actually spent 9 months
Yeah.
because people spend years in the state hospital.
Mhm.
And when I got out, it was May of 2020. And I thought I was doing good, everything. And then I met my fiance actually
Mhm.
in July of 2020. And I was still doing weekly therapy, and I was just very open and honest with him about what was going on.
Mhm.
And um I think having that support from him as well, because that was another relationship that I moved really fast.
Mhm.
And we struggled the first couple of years, because he had just lost his wife. I had just gotten out of the state hospital,
Mhm.
and we were both still trying to figure out ourselves. But now, 6 years later, we're great. Like, I'm not in therapy anymore. I haven't been in therapy for almost 2 years. It's the longest since the trauma that I haven't been in therapy.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I still get my meds through Weaver Human Services, but
Just for
I
anybody listening, I'm
yes,
just gonna point that out. If you live in Utah and Weber County, they're a great resource
yes,
for help, a
Yes.
huge resource.
yes. Utah, I think is finally coming around with mental health.
Mhm.
I think it's taken them a long time because I mean they're just doing trainings with cops and everything on how to handle things, and I still don't think stuff is handled.
I think that's nationwide, though. I
Y-
don't think it's just Utah.
Yeah,
I think that's nationwide.
I mean I think it's a good thing
Yeah.
that because they have to you know you have to know about these things.
Mhm.
It's not just something that I mean, I know it's not new or anything, but it's getting more frequent,
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think. And it's just not men on women.
Oh,
Women
yeah.
beating men as well.
Yes.
With that, a lot of times, if you haven't been trained, especially like with trauma bonds,
Hmm.
because I hear people tell me all the time, like, "Oh, well, I don't know why she stayed with him," or "I don't know why you did this or that," and it's like, well, just be happy you don't understand it,
Hmm.
Yes.
because when you have that trauma bond and that addiction, it's you you don't even realize what you're doing.
You don't. And when you're in it and you are in that cycle, it's so much harder to get out
Mhm.
because it's like I said, it's the I love you when you're sober
Mhm.
that gets you.
Mhm.
And then that's what brings you back in. And it seriously, I left 7, 10, 15 times, even moving back and forth to my grandma's and back to him, to my grandma's and back to him. It it happens
Yeah.
because for me, it was just the word I love you and the affection when we were sober.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because you're always trying to chase that person, that fake person they were in the beginning.
Hmm.
You want to get back to them because you're like, "This is who they really are."
Hmm.
It's not this ugly person. If I can just fix him, if I can just do this and that. But it's such a facade at the beginning. That's what gets you hooked. And then you're
Right.
always fighting for that. And then it also becomes like you get those happiness hits. And then you're always looking for those little teeny tiny I love yous, you know?
Because then that's almost the I love you is almost like the high.
Yes, it is.
You know?
Mhm.
It's like, "Oh, I love you." "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
"You've
Mhm.
got me again." And that's why it takes when you are in that cycle, it takes so long to get out
Mhm.
because they trap you. They know how to trap you in.
Mhm.
Mhm.
They're like, "Oh, I got you."
Mhm.
Yeah.
And they do it, and they do it well. And, people have said, why didn't you just leave?" Like, I have my family, "You could have left." I could have. You were there to help me. Like,
Mhm.
you didn't let me come to your house. You know, um, no, I couldn't just leave.
Yeah.
It wasn't that easy. I would sleep at the park because it wasn't that easy to just leave,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know? And sometimes, I wish it was easier. But then other times I look at it and so because of what I have gone through, I am such a people pleaser that or I'm like, "Oh, you need help? Come here." I I help everybody.
The fixer.
I'm the fix yes, it and it stems from childhood up through, everything that I've been through as an adult as well, but it's also made me a stronger person.
Mhm.
Like, if it would have been, "Oh, he hit me and I left," I don't think I would have learned,
Mhm.
you
You
know?
would have just kept going
I
through this.
I had to keep going through.
So the same man, just different bodies. Yep.
Yes. I just had to keep going through the cycle because he was a different person. He
Mhm.
was a different person when he was sober. He was a different person when he was just drinking. He was a different person when it was just meth.
Yep.
So you got these different people, but then you're also a different person
Mhm.
because you're trying to like not compete, but try and be that person that they want you to be. So then you end up not even knowing who you are.
Yep. You lose yourself for sure.
And so I would say the last 5 years, because the first 5 years were still really, really hard. But these last 5 years, I have taken control.
Mhm.
I have said, I am not going to because it did cause me mental health issues.
Mhm.
And, I'm on Social Security because of it. And I get looked down on. Well, you could go to work. You can, I can. You're right. But my body and my mind doesn't let me
Mhm.
because I go in fight or flight so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I can go and do plenty of things, but just because of the trauma, my mind doesn't allow me to.
Mhm.
And that's okay, you know? Um, and today I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
5 years ago, I struggled really hard with that. But in the last 2 years, I have also lost 160 pounds
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Amazing.
and have gotten off 3 of my mental health medications.
That's
Three.
amazing.
And it's because I took control.
Yeah.
I wasn't letting it control me anymore. And now I can see him and my body still will react,
Mhm.
but it doesn't go in total fight or flight anymore.
Mhm.
Um, I don't need to immediately go into the hospital when I'm in crisis. I used to always I got to go in the hospital. I'm going to kill myself, whatever. Um, Now I sit in my feelings and I process them and I like enjoy my struggles now,
Mhm.
you know, because they are making me who I am.
Yeah.
I have 5 kids at home that I'm raising. And if I wouldn't have gone through the trials and everything, I don't think I could be who I am to show them how to navigate life
Yeah.
because life is not easy.
No.
No. What does choosing yourself look like to you today?
So even though I have a family that I take care of, choosing me is like just like a self-care, you know? Um it's, "Oh, I'm not feeling good. I'm going to take 20 minutes and go and lay down." And be okay with it.
Mm.
In the past, I was like, "Oh my gosh, if I go and lay down, am I going to get criticized? Am I going to?"
Mhm.
But it also takes having the support, you know? Um the support that I have from my fiance and 5 kids. I mean, I should just say husband because we've been together for a while.
Mhm.
But if I honestly didn't have their support either, I don't think I would be as strong as I am either. Because there's times I would say, even in the last year, that I've gone into to where I go manic and I won't sleep for like 3 days. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I'm going crazy. And then just having my husband, talk me down and be like, okay, you don't need to rush into, oh, I need to be admitted.
Mhm.
Now it's like, oh, okay, I've been up for 3 days because I'm manic because of something that happened. All I need to do is take a medication, sleep for a night or two, and then I'm good.
Mhm.
I deal with the feelings, I live in them. And I think choosing me is like like just living. in the moment now,
Mhm.
you know,
It's so
instead of
hard to teach yourself how
it,
to live in the moment
it
after you've lived through stuff like that.
yeah, because it's like you weren't living in the moment.
Mm-mm.
It was always like, what am I doing next? What am I doing next? What's going to happen next?
Mhm.
Now it's like, oh, 5 minutes. What's that? You know,
Yeah.
I just kind of I don't know.
Do you have any questions
No.
for her?
Mm-mm.
Okay, well, I have one last question,
Okay.
which usually brings up more questions. But one of my favorite lines in my book that I wrote was if the healed version of me could go back to the broken version of me on that bathroom floor, I would have told her. So, what would you tell yourself if you could go back to your most broken time?
Probably. I mean, I remember times during like the really bad towards the end of it, I was just like, I don't even know. Like, just pretty much just saying it's okay. Like, you're gonna get through it. Like, it's tough, it's hard, but you can make it through, you know? And even because, like, I'm just thinking right now, like, I think the abuse as a kid and having the abuse as adult, I almost felt like it was okay
Yeah.
because it happened when I was younger too.
Mhm.
You were
Not a lot of
interested.
people know about it,
Mhm.
you know? Like, my family doesn't know what some of his wives done to me, you know?
Mhm.
But, um, it's like you almost get used to it, and so it's just like an okay,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but just I don't know, just gotta keep pushing, you know?
Keep
Push
pushing through.
push through it. So,
Right.
yeah.
Good answer. Good answer. Um, yeah, I do think that what you're conditioned to when you're younger makes it what you accept more when you're an adult,
Mhm.
Mhm.
for sure. Do you think so? Anything you want to add?
I don't think so.
Well, you did a great job.
Thanks.
Teresa said something that I want to leave you with. Now I take over my mental health. I don't let it take over anymore. And that's what this episode is about. Not just what she survived, but what she chose to do with her life after survival. Not just the chaos, but the rebuilding. Not just the woman who was trapped in it, but the woman who fought her way out, did the work, and kept going. Thank you, Teresa, for your honesty, your courage, and for trusting us with your story. We're honored to share it. If this episode brought anything up for you, you are not alone. There is support available, and your story matters. You can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799 7233 or text START, START, to 88788. You can also call or text 988 for mental health crisis support. If calling feels like too much, you can text HOME, HOME, to 741741. If you have a story that needs to be told, this space is for you. You are not crazy, you did not imagine it, and most importantly, you are not alone. You don't have to be fully healed to share your story, you just have to be ready to be open and honest. Send us an email at sunshinefaymedia@gmail.com. That's sunshinefaymedia@gmail.com if you have a story you want to share. Next week, we'll be diving into the twisted web of manipulation used on Teresa. And after that, we will dive into Galen's murky waters. And just when you think our story couldn't get any darker, well, it does. Thank you for listening to Stories We Weren't Supposed to Tell, and take care of yourself.